Defiant's body suddenly lit with power a second before he roared in pain, and something was forcibly ripped from him. He howled in pain for an agony he had never felt before in his life, was just about ready to beg that one of those unnatural creatures warring against each other come and put him out of his misery. Unfortunately for him, everything else was already occupied, so he finally passed out, his body smoking with golden yellow magic as it vanished into the ether, leaving him powerless. Sunset screamed in agony. She could swear for a second she heard an additional bellow, but it was likely her body shutting down. Open your eyes. What was that? Though she couldn't open her eyes due to pain, she did hear the voiceless speech, clearly directed at her. It's the dawn of another day. Wipe the fear from your mind. Wipe the clouds in the sky. Who is it? Who are you? Please, help me, Sunset begged. Tell me, can you see it? Tell me, can you feel it? It's for healing heart and spirit, and it's coming. What? Let the light in, let the light in, let the light in, let it all in. Then Sunset felt it. Pure ivory power. Washing her, healing her. A flock of feathers gently pushing around her, and a memory came. Sunset was 8 years old, and had another nightmare. She ran through the castle in a panic, looking desperately for the princess. She rushed down unfamiliar hallways, racing through empty spaces, seeing the shadows of night touch down, and the moon staring at her as if in anger. She cowed at the silvery moonlight, feeling the rage and hatred from it somehow. Then she felt soft golden light pick her up. Sunset opened her eyes to look into the concerned lilac ones as Princess Celestia looked at her terrified young ward. You have nothing to fear from the moon and night, Sunset, the great white alicorn said, nuzzling her watery charms. You are the sun and the light, and you will grow up to be a great mare. Celestia carried Sunset to her bed, covering her charms with one of her wings before both settled to sleep. Pausing one last time to kiss the filly on the head, the Princess of All said, You need fear nothing. If you let the light in, let it all in. Sunset smiled, and her mind opened her arms to let the unrest of blackness come. A massive rainbow of power, like nothing that had ever been seen before, slammed into Tirek, knocking him off his feet and burning him with prismatic flames. He roared in pain and fury, then countered, opening his mouth and spitting out a huge column of black fire. Salvo did nothing to stop the massive friendship blazer as it poured through his beam like it wasn't there, impacting against him hard enough to throw him into the ruins of Sugarcube Corner.
How dare you?
He roared.
Tirek will
His neck snapped back as the Rainbow of Power virtually delivered a slapping blow. Shut the fuck up! Rainbow Dash taunted. The adults are talking. Rainbow, replied Jelly and Modest, though she felt like doing the same thing. Tirek, give up. You're going back to Tartarus, if you're lucky. If not, we end you permanently. This is your last warning. The demonic centaur wiped the blood from his mouth and pulled a broken spar of wood that had embedded to his side. It gushed blood, but he didn't care.
Tirek is a god here,
he hissed,
and nothing you could do would deter him. He will rule supreme.
Massive blasts of energy began to build around his horns, with enough power to start warping the air in the immediate vicinity. Nearby buildings started to catch flames, and the screams of planes trapped within began to fill the air. The centaur laughed at the sound, taking it as musical accompaniment.
And now to show you fleas, who is the real ruler of this world.
He spat another lance of dark fire. The energy between his horns joined it, and the resulting torrent of hill flame rushed forth, tearing up whole seconds of earth in its path, boring through ruined structures that they wouldn't dare, and headed towards the element bearers, as straight as sure as a missile launched onto its target. Even a slight distance away, in the middle of fighting T-Rex golems and defending survivors from the onslaught, Scorpion turned, knowing what was about to happen. Even still, the great king turned away, his eyes growing moist from the endgame. Goodbye, brother, he whispered. The deadly bore of power continued without pause, annihilating everything in its path, until it reached the bearers, and then stopped. As if in inconvenience, Twilight leapt up to the top of the beam, walking down its length as he took a strummer stroll. Without fail, the other bearers did the same, save for Rainbow, who insisted on flying above it, because she was Rainbow. To T-Rex shock, the 6 mares casually moved forward, unconcerned about the fate of burning heresies beneath their hoof steps, completely disregarding it as much as they would the cobblestones of their now ruined hometown. The mares continued their casual walk, finally coming to a stop just before his face. With that, they sat down, bored looks on their collective visages, and to T-Rex's surprise, Twilight summoned a cup of tea, then went for her friends. She took a long, cold drink from it, bobbing her head as if listening to a music only she could hear. The others did the same, enjoying the sudden and completely nonsensical team time. Finally, she finished and said to her friends, "I needed that, didn't you?" "Oh, absolutely, darling," Rarity admitted. "Watching the forces of evil could be absolutely dehydrating. Just imagine how much chem I made winning tonight." Rainbow fixed a wing. "Yeah, but it was a decent workout, right, girls?" Applejack shrugged. "I have had a buyer. Remember a time we took Beauregard to my cousin's place?" "Uh-huh," Piggy agreed. "That one was way more interesting than this." "Oh, I agree," Fluttershy added. "But you see is too coarse, as Rarity would say." "Thank you for this idea, but yes, I do agree." T-Rex looked at the gnats before him, completely uninterested in them all. He brought a hoof out to stomp them.
Die!
He roared. Twice tried. "Well, I suppose we better get this over and done with, right?" The girls nodded as one and hopped off the massive column of energy, which was now burning with a blazing rainbow powered. To beam her first course, it rendered T-Rex like a freight train at full speed, setting him aflame once more, this time with rainbows dancing around him. He shrieked as the rainbow force did what it had been created to do, ending a threat. "Girls, now!" Twilight thundered, summoning the power of the elemental armor once more. On either side of her, the other bears did the same. Beams as large as they tore away from them, combining into one massive trunk of rainbow fire, boring into and through T-Rex. He screamed this one last time, but even that phantom of the explosive light and sparks, as the demonic terror of the world, was no more. Smells of light rained down everywhere, restoring the magic he had stolen. Twilight just looked into the sky and said 3 words. "Sick, temper, tyrannus." "What's that, Money Twilight?" Applejack asked. "Old Pegasus Obsidian," Rainbow interjected. "Always a dictator says something like that. It was Commander Storm's personal motto whenever she fought against the other 2 tribes. A reminder never to be the monster she fought the other tribes were." "Well, that looks like someone's more well-read than it seems," Rarity teased. "You mean an egghead?" Pinky chimed in. Rainbow looked nonplussed. Yeah, laugh it up, fuzzball," she grunted. "Twilight!" Twilight turned to see her brother rushing towards her. His armor battered and he missed him dozens of scratches, but thankfully alive. "Shiny, you're alive!" She went over and hugged him, immediately starting healing spells. "Yeah, of course. So I'm gonna let some dumb crystal golems sing me down," he scoffed, although we got in some early reports of casualties. One of them was Pavan Bayan. Twilight suddenly downcast. "Oh no, does Celestia know?" "It's worse than that," Shiny said. Twilight immediately knew what he was talking about. "What's less?" Rarity asked, looking at Shiny with concern. "Talk!" Raspberry held the siren in the air by her magic. A natural color she knew that wasn't her own magic, nor Sunset's. She wasn't sure where it had come from. She received it from the knot somehow when she destroyed it. This thought made her shudder. She nearly dropped her quarry, but recovered just in time for a siren not to notice. "I don't need to tell you anything," the woman said. There was more than a hint of fear in her voice. "You're right, you don't," the teenager replied, "but you have to come down sometime. Although a long-term magic experience there might prevent that, and I've seen a whole lot of magic around here." That, of course, was a lie, but Raspberry knew that the other mare, or woman, didn't need to know that. To prove her point, Raspberry canceled the stasis spell and added the slightest bit of levitation spell to her target. Thankfully, the room was large enough the enemy floated up several feet before shouting at Raspberry. She turned to leave. "Not my problem. Have a nice trip," Raspberry said coldly, turning her shoulder once more. "Fine, just pull me now, King. I'm afraid of heights." Bingo. The former unicorn thought she canceled the spell and added a rebinding one. Magic, of course, was familiar, but her skin still crawled a bit. Was this the magic she would have held if she was born as a human? She hoped not. It felt really creepy, if that was the case. She also wondered if this was what Sunset had to deal with on a regular basis. If that was the case, Small wonder she didn't feel comfortable in Equestria anymore. It's like the difference between drinking really great coffee, like he had at Shikiko Corner, or a parent's hotel, or drinking that horrible instant coffee that Frozen Grounds tried to pass off as the next big thing of coffee. I really hope humans are advanced enough not to have instant coffee, she hoped. As he brought the siren down, she demanded, "Where are you keeping the prisoners?" The siren, already in a fragile state, whispered, "Down in Central Pit. I don't know anything more than that. I swear I don't." Raspberry stared at the woman for a second, then said, "Okay, I believe you. Now sleep." She stomped her foot, and a flare of magic flashed on the ground. The siren collapsed suddenly, asleep. "So I can do white magic?" Raspberry asked herself, looking at the strange magic she held. That, of course, brought up other questions. If this was what she was using now, would she be able to take it back? Would she be able to go back? Is there a back to go to? She puts aside the questions for now. She would have 100 or so to ask Sunset when this was all over. But for now, she was going to have to fight her way down to the bottom, where Sunset was already facing off against whatever was responsible for all this. Maybe she didn't need backup. Her fellow unicorn had proven herself to be immensely powerful. From what Twilight had said, Sunset could potentially be even more powerful than the Alicorn before her ascension. Could she control the sun on her own? Raspberry grinned. Having been the target of Sunset's magic when she was depowered, she didn't want to find out what would happen if she had her full strength. But I bet some humans are going to find out, and they're going to find out the hard way. Jitterbug had kicked the unicorn so much she even fell with Kakuna for a liking. The demon laughed with joy. Wouldn't be much longer until she was literally being a dead horse.
Bitch, this world is mine now. Mine. I will be unstoppable power here. What do you say to that?
Shoryuken! Jitterbug felt herself burn with a screaming pain as she sent flying. As he looked, all she could see was a fist burning white flame, carrying them above. As he hit the apex of the gravity's rainbow, she saw someone with burning white eyes burning at an impossible speed, hitting her with a reverse spin kick into midair. Jitterbug crashed into the earth nearly head first, while her opponent landed on her feet. Jitterbug scrambled to her own and turned to see Sunset shimmer, once more in human form, white fire blazing around her. And shrouding her was a cloak of ennoblement. "You want to know what power is?" Sunset seethed, her voice reverberating. "You think you know what it is? Fine. Let me show you. All 385 yatawatts of it!" In space, Free was constrained. Souls flickered and flared as part of it turned darker. For a second, radiated with the forces of yin and yang in balance, heating a call the orb had not known from this plane. Finally, a massive extension of solar corona, mass rocketed away from the star, flung towards Earth and picking up speed. As it did, it became higher and more focused, until it passed Venus as it was a blinding, bright, powerful beam, the width of a telephone pole, burning through space and annihilating matter as it passed through the Earth's atmosphere.
You think that was a punch?
Jitterbug said, rushing towards her.
Let me show you a real one.
Sunset stood there calmly, her corona burning brilliantly. "Oh, that was just a warm-up. Let me show you what happens when I hit you with the sun!" And with that, Sunset snapped her fingers. A bolt from the blue ripped through several floors, melting through them as they were in the air. The beam then struck true, shining into Jitterbug at literal light speed, setting her ablaze with pure power as the sun. Jitterbug screamed with the sorrow of someone in absolute pain, while Sunset rushed towards her, body burning from incandescent energy. At the same time, Sunset felt herself slip. Sunset was wrong. Very, very wrong. It didn't matter, though. She had to stop this monster from destroying everything and everyone she loved, even if it meant. Sunset summoned a massive blast of energy and let it slam down to Jitterbug, making her scream all the more. "Give it up!" Sunset roared. "You don't get this world! You don't get any world! You are going down!" Jitterbug was thrown into a wall, cratering it, rocking the room from the impact. Central Integrity was going from the bow, and there was a whole building's worth of infrastructure above them. If it all came down, no. Sunset refused to let that happen. No one's going to die here save for that demon. That line was drawn here. Meanwhile, Jitterbug forced herself to her feet.
You can't hold that much power. It's killing you,"
she taunted.
You're just a mortal. You can't control us.
The word was beaten out by another scream as a second blast from Soul hit the demon, punching another entryway through the building above. I've done it before, Sunset snarled, ignoring the rivulet of blood that was starting to leak out the corner of her eye. I am the daughter of the sun. I will beat you to death if it's the last thing I do. From a distance, everyone was transfixed. It was becoming clear that Sunset was at her limit. It was still pushing. Sonny had seen that kind of attitude before. It was the kind that spoke of heroics, the kind he had seen in officers that had gone above and beyond the call of duty. He had earned posthumous accolades and kind words at their funeral. "Someone stop her!" he shouted. "She's going to kill herself!"
No.
Everyone turned to see Pinky. And to their surprise, the girls were united behind her.
No, she's not.
But the teen couldn't summon the words to say what she knew in her heart. Definitely Rarity could.
We know what she's going to do. We've always known.
I know this doesn't like science, but believe in her, Applejack told him.
Believe in us,
Fluttershy finished. Chernobog charged at Sunset once more. The teen barely dodged.
Ha! You cannot hope to defeat me,
the demon bellowed.
You hold me to a stalemate, but that's it. So long as I have a presence on this world, I cannot be defeated. You, on the other hand, won't last much longer.
Sunset, in return, flung a massive beam of white fire that slammed to the back of the demon. Said you were flying. A small pool of blood started to form at Sunset's feet, but she held it steady. If I go, I'm taking you with me. The demon fired a beam back, but it was clear it wasn't anywhere near as strong as Sunset's.
If you kill me, she cowed, I will be back. This body will die, but sooner or later, I will be back. There'll always be one in the bloodline to control, and you can't stop that. You can't stop me.
I said I will stop you, Sunset cried back, though she started to crumble while holding up the beam. The energy within her, the very sense he was tapping into, was starting to overwhelm her or burn her from within. The demon had been right. No mortal was ever meant to hold his power. It was destroying her. Yet she knew if she gave up now, too many people would die, starting with her loved ones, her friends, her family, her sister, the love of family and friends. I'm not alone, and I won't be alone. The cocksure grin came to Sunset's face. I don't have to beat you, she said with a grin, because I'm not alone. The solar power of Sunset's command seemed to flare brighter than it ever had before. Girls, she roared, pony up! Elsewhere, Raspberry had a hard time throwing energy blasts. As a unicorn, it was normal. You point your horn in the direction of your foe and just let it fly. That's why she was able to use the wand Sunset gave her. She understood that even though it came from human myths, it still served like a sort of Lycorain, after a fashion. Likewise, while she understood the gun and how it worked, at least on a basic level, clearly humans wanted horns, at least on a subconscious level, which is why all their weapons lead in that direction. Also made her realize that object she encountered in Rainbow Falls might have been a human gun, and how it got here she had no idea. She had the chance, she needed to borrow it and bring it back here so Sunset could look at it. If I get a chance, right, that's still assuming I have a home to go back to, she thought grimly. That, of course, also frustrated her. The possibility she would have to live as a human for the rest of her days. She was already unlike other ponies, but Sunset's life was definitely beyond the pale when it came to living like that. She had already done this for maybe half a day, and thought doing this for years secretly unnerved her. If it hadn't been for the family, she would have wondered how Sunset had done this herself for a whole half decade. As it was, splitting her paws, her hands together, I had to remember humans have hands. She launched a sulfuric blast of energy from it, taking down another siren. The remainder returned fire, but this time, Raspberry stepped to the middle of their gunfire and blocked the rounds with his shield, much to their surprise. You know, I thought humans were going to be much nicer, despite what Sunny stated, the teen snarled. I thought that maybe you guys were like griffins. A bit on the rough side, but an overall decent folk. Turns out that was a lie. She set the bullets on fire right before their eyes. I had to wonder if you were more like T-Rex than ponies. She raised a hand, golden fire burned from within. I could destroy you all, she hissed. It wouldn't take much to avert. She then pointed her hand at them and launched several blasts of energy at once. Each small fireball smacked each siren right ahead, taking it down. She smiled. Hey, maybe these finger things aren't so bad. Z10 turned to look at him. It's like having multiple horns at once. Elsewhere, Down went another batch of flames, their bodies burning to cinders before they even hit the ground. There were less of them, and they switched from the tactic of attacking him individually to striking in groups. Didn't matter. They could all come out at once, and he would flame them out of the sky. If he could smile now, Heliodor would do so. After all, there were no points for second place. Right now, he wasn't close to his natural form, and wasn't sure how his magic was holding out. He didn't care about that. Thinking about it was a hindrance anyway. Right now, his mistress and her friend were counting on him to take down the bandits, and take them down he would. The world depended on him. Maverick would never let his buddies down, neither would he. Then he sensed it. Right, Asbury turned the angle too fast for her liking, and her legs screamed, sending her to the ground in a heap. She forced herself back to her feet immediately. She needed to get down to where the ringleader for all this was, so she could bolster Sunset, especially now she had this weird magic. Once they sent this guy to the ground, then she could try to figure out how to get back to Equestria. There was obviously another way back aside from the mirror, one Sunset was already familiar with. All they had to figure out was how to access it. She was so focused on her thoughts she almost missed it. Then she sensed it. Her eyes widened in shock. Flames burned around Sunset more and more as she began to change again. But this time it was different. Her hair grew down to her ankles and had changed into a ponytail. Pony ears the same color as her fur had suddenly appeared on her head. And as for normal ears, they could no longer be seen. She seemed somehow more real, as if a new layer of reality had been added to her person. And a whirlwind of amethyst light swirled around her, like she was a living whirlwind. I think it's time you learned what real power is, Chernabog. To the surprise of nearly everyone there, indigo light began to swirl around Rarity. Her ears too vanished, replaced by the white penne atop of her head, and her hair lengthened to become a ponytail. The young woman became filled with renewed confidence. She raised her hand, a ball of indigo power burning within. "About time, darling," Sunny told Sunset. "We thought we had to remind you." Ruby light exploded and went fainted away. Rainbow too had joined the chains, light blue ears of red flames dancing around her fists.
Time to kick some demon ass!
She crowed. Orange fire rose up to meet Applejack, bathing her in its light. Light orange ears appeared on her as her hair, like the others, also became lengthened into a ponytail. "You're going down, demon! That's the truth!" she crowed, glaring at Chernabog with cocksure certainty. Green flames started to caress Fluttershy like a lover. She sighed sweet contentment as buttered yellow ears appeared alongside her trail hair. The flames continued to dance around her like an intimate friend. She gave a beat-fixed smile. "Time to end this." Pinkie, of course, danced her light blue flames as she were a Sentai hero. Her pink ears appeared and her long, tangled mess of curls became longer.
She grinned. "You're going down, Minnie," she told Dini. "Plus, I got some kissing with my pee to get done, and you're wasting our time."
Twilight looked at her friends and her eyes nearly popped out of her skull. You're... "Long story, Twilight," Applejack told her. "We'll talk about it, okay?" Octavia was just as nonplussed as her cousin. "What the hell? You guys not human either?"
"We are," Fluttershy began, "but..."
Rarity interrupted.
"Octavia, darling, I would love to have a chit-chat about this at another time. But right now, as Rainbow so cleverly said, we have to ask the kick."
The look in the Fashionistas' eyes was full of cold determination, and matched the looks in the eyes of the other transformed girls. So they had a singular purpose that only they were privy to. Twilight looked at the arcane flames flowering around her friends and her sister, and wondered if things would ever be the same. Meanwhile, Chernabog got up from her position and snarled,
"Okay, I've had enough of you, you terrible horse. Time to end you once and for all."
She had started to summon a massive aura of energy, with seconds growing larger than a minivan. The ground began to crumble beneath her feet, and the air around her warped. Her eyes began to burn with the same black fire that the Titanic spear was, and her face was contorted in an unnatural grimace. With a fervent scream of "Die!" she launched the blast forward, intending to annihilate everything in its path. The energy blast rocketed forward like a freight train, destroying everything in its path, including the fairy air molecules. From where they stood, those kids could feel the hum in the air as death came forward, inexorable and unstoppable. Pinkie nearly smiled.
"Now you done fucked up for the last time,"
was all she said. The massive missile of mayhem came with a mirror of the massacre, burning and blazing with only a single teenage girl to stop it. "Sunset!" someone yelled. Sunset yawned. The mammoth volley came to a stop just instants before impact. Sunset reached out to touch it with a simple tap of her finger. It dissipated. The blast released its energy to the four winds, decimating everything in its path. or would have, had not translucent seals popped up from nowhere, protecting the others from horrific deaths. Jitterbug looked at the teen, her mouth agape with shock. How? Sunset ignored her. Girls, let it rip. As one, the girls summoned bright balls of color-coded flame as they illuminated the area with the newfound magic. The then blasted Sunset was it. Must have shocked the adults. What the hell? Spike said, speaking for pretty much everyone, and getting away with cursing for a change. Sunset nearly fell to the ground from the force of the beams, but she forced herself back to her feet. She was going to end this one way or another. She didn't have a choice. Her loved ones were in trouble, and she felt it was at her end point. Easy to give up now. To let herself drift away onto the pain and agony she felt. Okay. Power of Love from Sailor Moon. Unity from Shinedown. Or you guys could bring out a My Hero Academia theme. But then she saw the looks on the faces of her loved ones out of the corner of her eye. A mixture of fear and worry. Were they worried he wouldn't survive? Were they afraid of her? She didn't know the answers. She couldn't discern them. All she knew they were people she loved more than anything right now, and they were in danger from the creatures she had inadvertently brought to reality through her own misdeeds. She had to make it right. It was more than just that. She had to make amends for what she'd done to her loved ones, for what she had done to humanity as a whole. So for a second of her life, she felt the full brunt of the elements of harmony at her. But this time she wasn't so much as its target, as its focus. A living prism, turning 5 separate beams into one full cascading blast of energy. And it filled her, overwhelming her senses and threatening to shut her down. She was already tapping into soul to use its energy against the demon, and now she was taking in a second source of boundless energy. No mortal was ever meant to hold that kind of power, and she knew what the result would be. But she wouldn't give up. Not while she still drew breath. And while her loved ones did, someone had to be the protector. Shield logic against sword logic, the immovable object against the unstoppable force. And thus, she channeled more power than any other human had done in history, firing a massive rainbow beam of white lightning dancing around its edges, pounding a beam against Chernobog like a massive presser, slamming her back into the wall and practically bending her into it. The demon howled from the mind-rending pain, but still managed to keep her mental faculties operating.
Do you think this is gonna stop me, you bitch?
She roared over at Sunset over the continuing throw of the beam.
You can't stop me!
One hand still focusing on Mark Blast, Sunset lowered the other. At 93 million miles away, the sun plowed. Apparently you're not a fan of sunlight, the teen taunted. So brought some Carbotone, cunt. She felt her eyes start to moisten. She knew it wasn't due to electrocution. Give up!
Ha! So long as I have a host, I will never be defeated!
Chernobog screamed back.
I will rule this fetid world, and I will line my throat with your skin!
So be it, Sunset said sadly. That means someone has to die. Then, I'm sorry.
Red moon field must still!
The words cut through Sunset like a lightsaber. She turned to see a hysterical woman. A woman who looked like a short-haired version of Miss Celestia, leaning against the bar next to Princess Celestia. As for Celestia herself, she looked at Sunset with horror. In that moment, the former unicorn knew shame. There's always a way, my student. Came a single voice from a long time gone. I don't know who you are, Sunset thought to her counterpart, possessed by the demon that haunted Sunset for so long. But you don't deserve this. Even if you were as bad as I was, you don't deserve this. No one deserves this. Sunset looked at everyone she could. Her family, mentors, and friends. They all looked at her in a way that made her want to beg them not to. See the monster now? Had he ever really proven herself? Yes. And I'll keep on doing it. Focusing past the pain she felt, the agony ripping through her, Sunset held the beam on her foe while racing into the fabric of space-time. To the side of Chernobog, a massive tear of reality opened. In the distance was nothing but black, followed by a blindingly complex star structure that strobed and occulted, vibrating at a ridiculous speed. Sunset then coughed, and spat up blood before hissing through gritted teeth. Behold, Sagittarius A-star, the black hole at the center of the galaxy. She glared at Chernobog. You know a home. Chernobog looked at the black hole and paled.
You wouldn't dare!
She snarled. In response, Sunset sifted the beam. ignoring his shrieking as the atmosphere rushed out of the room, as the black hole's supergravity started to reach through a rift to claim what was present. She moved the beam ever closer to the edge of the rift, as her vision began to tunnel. She could take much more of this in her human form, so she began to change again. Biting back a scream, Sunset let the energy burn through her as she changed back to her unicorn form. This time the damage to her compact body was worse. Parts of her fur were scorched, the skin underneath scalded, half her mane aflame. I couldn't feel her back right leg. Still she couldn't stop. She had to save those she loved. She had to save the Sunset that deserved to live. She had to stop Chernobog. So she did this what she did best. Never gave up. The beam rocketed away from her cracking arm. She weakly lifted her front hoof and twisted. Something within cracked as she bit out to scream again. She forced herself through the pain, pulling Chernobog towards her with ad hoc telekinesis. She focused through her ruined leg until the demon stood before the unicorn. "This doesn't belong to you!" Sunset snarled, twisted once more. Something snapped further. Her now useless leg fell to her side. This time she couldn't stop the scream of pain that uttered from her muzzle. But she wasn't the only one that screamed. To her surprise of everyone, the body of Sunset Simmer slowed off Chernobog like an oversized dress sleeping off a reading girl. A reading bit and description of Chernobog's true form. Humanly spindly, with red brick skin, black eyes and fangs and deep red wings, and hair the same coloration as both Sunsets with the addition of a black streak. The demon was now repulsed from the corpse he had defiled and worn like a suit. "Damn you! I'll eat your heart!" Chernobog shrieked. Meanwhile, no longer able to supply Sunset with harmonic magic, the 5 girls reached their limits. Nearly one fainted, crumbling to the ground, the spell broken. "Time to end you!" Sunset hissed. A tooth fell out of her mouth, root and all, but she ignored it. Her body was breaking down from magical overload, but she would not fail, not while this monster stood. Forcing herself to her hind legs, the unicorn unsteadily stood and forced herself to call upon the last bit of magic she had that was truly hers. Pointing her forelegs at Chernobog, a burning ball of cyan fire appeared between both legs. "Go to hell, bitch!" Sunset roared, then let loose her attack. "Shinku Hadouken!"
You don't believe this, but he has been working on that the entire day.
The fireball rocketed forward and hit Chernobog dead center in the chest, repeatedly exploding as it moved forward, pushing her back step by step and making her reel back. The demon was pushed back into the rift, only managing to hold on to the edges.
"Help me!"
Chernobog screamed.
"I deserve to live!"
"There's only room for one Sunset in this world," the unicorn said sadly. "And you're neither of us." Finally, the supergravity got a hold on its demon and started spaghettification, pulling the being's body thinner and thinner until she could no longer hold on. By the time the scream of horror reached Sunset's ears, the only thing left to Chernobog was a long, thin tendril that stretched towards infinity as it fell into a great black hole. And Sunset collapsed to the floor. She had enough sense to mind to collapse the rift. The release of energy blasted out, slamming to everyone and everything. Claiming all and whoever wasn't already unconscious was immediately rendered so the detonation of mystic energies overwhelmed everyone. Sunset fought her way through the magical white noise, forcing herself to endure it. She couldn't feel much of anything anymore. She still had something to do, though. She approached the maimed and wounded body of Sunset Simmer, her counterpart from this world, the one that deserved to be here, and suffered hell because of Sunset's own greed. Sunset's actions had inadvertently made this girl suffer. Now she was dead. Or not. Sunset thought with a weak smile. I could buy her soul back to her body. Still time. But to do so. No excuses. Pony Sunset was far too gone now. But human Sunset still had a chance. Moving as close as possible to the wounded, naked body was the other Sunset. The unicorn rested her horn on the girl's head, shielding her from the brunt of magical glow black. Live. Sunset whispered through the burnt and ruined muscle. One of us has to live. You deserve it. A bright cyan star flared from Sunset's horn. The ground shook and a localized earthquake shook the environs. Katana cheered.
"At last, I will be queen!"
She roared, "I will rule all!" She lifted the sirens under her command and ordered them to the door.
"Find your rest and prepare them to storm the gates of heaven. We will own this world by the end of the week!"
The answer to that was gunfire that raked across the body of the siren next to her. "Katana blast!" A young voice roared from the darkness. You have betrayed the Sisterhood and your orders. By National Secret Order 221.46A, Section 2, you are to surrender now!
How dare you!
Katana shouted back.
I will have your head for this, whoever you are!
Fine. For the shadows, Adacio grinned wolfishly. I am a siren. I know no fear. Next to her, on near identical faces, the same dark look sound of facades of her sisters. The ground shook, and a localized earthquake shook the environs. Raspberry was knocked off her feet and collapsed to the ground to tell Sook.
Naziquake!
She gasped.
But how?
She lay down on the ground, covering herself with a shield, waiting till the rumbling passed as quickly as it came.
I didn't think that much magic existed on Earth unless...
Raspberry's eyes went wide as she recalled a conversation with Twilight once.
When it comes to power, Raz, Sunset's probably more powerful than any of us. Save the princesses and me now. And I'm not sure I would even put that to the test. But I thought you were the princess of magic.
I am, but that's because I have far better control than any pony else. Think of it as the difference between hammering a nail and dropping a mountain on one. Both will get the job done, but one's far more useful than the other. Forcing herself to her feet, Raspberry made herself run as fast as she could, giving the brace a workout. Since it was going all out, that means there's quite a few natural rules of the universe that were going to protest. Since it was the kind of mare that wouldn't take no for an answer. Meanwhile, Twilight Sparkle was the first to regain consciousness. Mainly that was because of the sharp pain that shot through her leg, as she noticed it wedged between two large boulders. She pulled and forced her foot out, screaming in agony as she did so. Thankfully it wasn't broken, but it was a sprain for the ages. Tears filling her eyes. She forced herself back to her feet, while still looking around the bodies around her. The ends of the cage that held her was now ripped off its support, and flung to the other side of the cavern. Fear filled her as she moved towards the nearest one.
Mom?
She dove to her mother's side, checking for a pulse and finding one. She quickly checked everyone else, trying to shake to unconsciousness, but no avail. It was just as she reached and fruitlessly attempted to revive Octavia, she noticed two bodies in the distance, still and unmoving. The naked girl that looked like her sister, and the wounded, burnt alien that was her sister.
Sonny!
Twilight screamed, running as fast as she could, knowing the blinding pain in her leg. Tripping over running ground craters only to fall, forced herself back to her feet. She did this for a few more minutes. Finally, she reached Sunset in her real form. She was so small, so tiny, so fragile.
Sonny?
Twilight spoke softly, reaching out, yet afraid to touch the brutally wounded unicorn. Sunset began to cough. Twilight abandoned all sense of hesitation, picking her up immediately.
Sonny?
Hi, sis. Sunset's voice was raspy, Darth Vader-like. Twilight knew what that meant. Sunset's vocal cords were burnt. Most of her fur and hair was gone, and she was caked in blood and carbon scoring. She was also hot to the touch, so that Twilight forced herself to keep holding her. Sunset coughed and Twilight held her close.
Don't speak,
Twilight said in a wavering voice.
Just rest. We'll go get you to the hospital.
I'll be on the hospital now, sis, Sunset murmured. Or a vet. She joked weakly.
Stop it. You're not a pet.
Air started to come to Twilight's eyes.
Just rest for now. I'll make sure you get better.
Twilight, I'm dying.
There's nothing you could do about that. Anything.
Well, it's too late. Carter cut Twilight to the quick.
No, it's not too late. Sonny, please!
Twilight shocked. Sunset reached out with a blackened foreleg. To the girl's horror, she could see blackened bone throughout the rest parts of the shredded skin.
You had to be strong, sis. I did what I did to save the ones I love.
Sunset fell silent. Twilight's heart leapt into her throat for a second before the dying unicorn had the strength to continue.
For what it's worth, I love you, sis. You, Mom, Dad, Toffee, Shining, and everyone. Even Spike.
She coughed again. This time it was stronger.
I'm such a coward for not saying it before. No, you're not.
Twilight held her close.
You're my sister. I love you no matter what you are. I'm the coward for not trusting you.
Twilight cradled Sunset like a child.
Please don't give up. In the end, I was good, right? A good pony?
Sunset's voice was barely audible. Her eyes seemed to glaze over.
Good person? The best.
Twilight cried in her sister's short coat.
The best.
She felt Sunset's body shudder, and Twilight begged, "Please don't leave us. Please don't leave me." No answer came. "Sunny?" No answer would ever come again. "Sunny, please, say something. Please!" But the mayor would never speak again. And slowly there was no mayor, as the absolute magic burnout set in. The cells in Sunset's body turned to acid dust. Like spent charcoal, the rest of the dead unicorn melted away, until Twilight was covered in nothing but soot. Within moments, there was little to mark the fact that a unicorn named Sunset Simmer had ever walked the earth, either as biped or quadruped. Next to Twilight, Sunset Simmer laid unconscious, now the only one in this reality. Twilight heard a keening wail, a Banshee's hysterical scream. She didn't realize it was coming from her.